Hello and welcome. This is our second lesson of ACCA F6 taxation. This is only relevant to UK taxation version and it is the Finance Act 2016. In the previous lecture, if you remember, I told you different syllabus areas. I've listed them out and I told you that these are our main syllabus areas which we will look at during the course of our lectures. Today, before we move to our first topic area, which was income tax, if you remember, before we move to our income tax section, let me tell you a little bit about taxation in general and taxation within the UK in specific. Now, because you're studying UK taxation, some of you might be living in the UK, but some of you might be watching me somewhere in India, somewhere in Malaysia. Now, if you're not UK resident and you haven't been to UK before, you've never been to UK, then you might feel a little bit awkward. You will not understand the words, you will not understand the things which we will be talking about, because it is a little bit easier for the ones who live in the UK to understand the words which we will see here, because they are dealing with it on a daily basis. Say, for example, if you're living in the UK, you already know that what national insurance is, what NI is. You already know what is VAT because you are paying it. If you're working in the UK, then you know what national insurance is because you can see it on your payslip. But it is a little bit hard for ones who are not living in the UK. Now, if you're not living in the UK and you are still taking F6, I salute you, because it is very difficult. I can understand it. But I will try to make the things as easy as I can. I will try to make the things easy for you. I will try to explain the things in as easier language as I can. And so you should not face any problem. Alright, so before we move to our first topic, which was income tax, as I said, let me tell you the taxation in general and taxation in specific to the UK. I've already made the drawings. I've already painted the stuff on my whiteboard just to save my time and your time. Now, what is taxation basically? Taxation is simply a share of government. I think told you in the previous lecture as well. It is a share of government in your earnings. Now, if you're doing a business and you are making some profits, now government won't share in that. If you're working for someone, say for example, if I'm working for this company called AccountancyTube, AccountancyTube is paying me salary. So whenever I get the salary, I have to pay something to HMRC. I have to pay something to government in shape of taxation. Now, if I am working, if I am getting salary, I have to pay tax. If I am doing business, I will have to pay tax. So it doesn't matter which source of income you will have to pay tax. You can't escape from the tax unless you are earning very little amount, right? If you're earning very little amount, then government is very kind. They will say that you will not have to pay any tax, so they will give you some exemptions if you are poor. But if you are earning thousands of pounds, then you will definitely have to pay tax. All right, so taxation simply means a share of government in your own income, in an individual's income. So whoever is earning money, they will have to pay something to government in shape of taxation. So government have share in everyone's income. So government is very rich. All right. So now, but the point is that although everyone is paying to government, everyone is paying tax to government, why government needs tax at all? Why are we paying the tax to the government? Now, when you go out of this studio, if I go out of this studio, if you go out of your room, look at the roads, look at the building, look at hospitals, schools, and all that stuff. Who made that? I didn't make that. You didn't make that. So who is responsible for making that stuff? Who is responsible for making good hospitals and schools and colleges and universities? Government is doing that. Now, if the government is spending, where is the money coming from? This is the same money which we pay to government, and government then spends on us. They are not spending directly on us, but they are spending on the things which we use. Now, the roads on outside, if we go on the road is beautiful to use. We are using on daily basis. Now, assume if the road is broken for a day, we will be in much trouble. If you might have seen on the roads that when the road is broken down and they are repairing, for example, if they are repairing the road, then we face a lot of trouble. There is a lot of hassle, there is a lot of traffic jam, so we face a lot of problems. So I hope that we cannot imagine the life without the roads. It will be quite tough for us. But who is repairing the roads? Government is repairing the roads with our own money. So that is the way. We pay the government to do work for us. So we pay the government and they do the things. They make the roads, they make the schools, they make the hospitals. So they do work for us. Alright? So we are paying the government and the government is spending the money on us, on the things which we use which we use. Alright? So we are paying government in shape of taxation, and then government is using that money to do a lot of stuff. If we talk about the taxation within the UK, who is responsible for collecting the taxes? Do you know? You might already know. It is HMRC. The institute is called HMRC, Her Majesty Revenue and Custom. So we pay the government, the responsible body is HMRC. So we pay HMRC our tax, and then HMRC does the work. Excuse me. Now, apart from these roads and schools and buildings and all that, the government has to run the parliament as well. They have to pay the salary to the parliamentarians. So who is paying them? We are paying them in shape of taxation. Alright, so likewise, what I mean to say is that government has to do a lot of stuff. So they cannot do without money, and there is no source of income except for the ones which we are paying them. So there is the only source of income of government is what we pay them. So they are, taking the money from us, and obviously the, public borrowing as well. But that is not our subject area. We are not studying economics. We are studying taxation. All right. Now, HMRC is responsible for collecting the taxes, and then HMRC is doing the stuff, making the roads and all that. All right. Now, why we need tax? I've divided the three sections, which is in our syllabus as well. There are three factors if we talk about taxation, need of taxation, or need for taxation. Why do we need the tax at all? The three factors are economic factor. First of all, there is one economic factor. Now, what is economic factors? How does taxation affect the economy of a country? Now, the government is collecting the taxes from all of us, and then government is spending on a country. I have already given you the example of roads and buildings and all, hospitals and schools. Now, say for example, if the government does not collect the tax and government asks us to contribute, so say for example, if we are living in the street and if I go to everyone, assuming there is no tax concept at all, if I go to my neighbor and ask him to pay me 100 quid and ask other one to pay 100 quid, then I will ask them to make the road. So I am taking the money from everyone so that we can make our street better. All right. Likewise, if I ask, in my own, you can say in my own area or in my own council, if I ask everyone to pay me something so that we can build a hospital, will that be easy? No, I don't think it will be easier, because everyone will think, why shall I pay? Why shall I pay when others can pay? Why shall I pay? So the easiest way to get the money out of every individual was in shape of taxation. So basically the mean of taxation is collecting the money and then spending on the roads, on the hospitals, on the colleges and all that schools stuff. All right. So government first takes the money out of the economy. So the government takes the money out of our pockets. Then they spend then they spend on the stuff which we use. All right. So that is why it is very, very crucial, and that is economic factor. And likewise, it affects the economy as well. If we talk about the social factors, now social factors are now assume that the way I said that if it is up to us to make the roads, then we will not be bothered. I will say, why shall I pay? The other party will say, why shall I pay? So everybody will be saying that just leave it, I won't pay. So the easiest way was taxation. Now what does tax do is that they take the money out of the pocket of rich people and they spend on the poor people. Now if I am a poor guy and I live in this street, whereas the other people who live in the street are very rich guys, and I don't have any money to contribute towards the road, but government is responsible to take the money out of the rich guys' pockets and then spend on the roads. Likewise, if I am poor and then I cannot I cannot pay for my medical bills, then the government is responsible. Government is paying, because government is taking money out of the pocket of rich guys, and then they are spending on the poor people. All right, so that is the way that the government is collecting the money from the rich people, and they are spending equally among all the people who are living in a country. So that is a social factor, so that, assuming there would be no tax, it will make the rich guy richer and poor guy poorer. Why? Because money makes money. You know that. When I have money, I will invest and the money will increase. Likewise, I will become richer and richer. If someone is poor guy, they don't have money anyway, so they need money to spend on food and shelter and all that. So they have expenses, but they don't have any source of income. So they will get poorer and poorer, whereas the rich guy will get richer and richer because they've got enough investment and the money makes money. So their estate will become bigger and bigger. All right. So that was a social factor. If we talk about environmental factor, the government is very, very careful about the environment, because the government say we all know that green environment is very, very crucial, especially at present age. We need our environment to be green. We need more trees. We need less smoke in the sky, in the environment. Now that's why if you're living in the UK, you might already know that road tax is higher for the cars with high CO2 emission. Say for example, if you have bought a new car, now new cars which are coming in the market, they are environment friendly. So on most of the cars there is no road tax at all, or a small amount of tax. Whereas the old cars with high CO2 emission, they have too much tax to pay. I'm talking about the road tax. They're about £200 road tax. All right. In some cases, it's £300. So why is the government is saying it? Why is the government charging too much road tax? Because the cars are not environment friendly. The government don't want people to encourage. The government don't want to encourage the use of them cars which are not environment friendly. All right. So the government says that use them cars which does not harm our environment, because the higher the CO2 emission of the car is, it will leave more smoke, more bad environment, so which will be very, very bad for us to breathe. All right. So that's why that is our environmental factors. Likewise, there are different other things as well. So government is keen to make the environment green. So that's why the government introduces different types of taxes on the things which are not environment friendly. On the other hand, if the things are very environment friendly, then they give the exemptions as well, the reliefs as well. All right. So that was our need for taxation. If we talk about now HMRC, I've already told about HMRC, that HMRC is the authority which collects the tax on the government behalf. Now, if you think that you have paid too much tax, if you're working for someone, if I'm working for AccountancyTube, and if I end of the month, if I check my payslip and I think I have paid more tax, one thing is I can talk to my employer. The other thing is I can talk to HMRC directly. Now, if I talk to HMRC will say that all right, okay, you've paid too much tax. You think you have paid too much tax. Then you can go to our court. You can go to our tribunal. Now, there are two types of tribunals. One is first tier tribunal, and the other one is upper tier tribunal. Now, because I am an individual and my money is not too much, so my tax will be about £1,000, £2,000. So if I have a small case, if I have a minor amount to claim from HMRC, then I will go to first tier tribunal. If my case is very, very complex or huge amount of taxation, millions of pounds, then who will hear my case? Upper tier tribunal. So the complex cases will be heard by upper tier tribunal, whereas the normal and small cases will be heard by a first tier tribunal. Now, say for example, if my case was very, very small and minor, I went to first tier tribunal and they did not hear my case, or they said, they gave in a decision which was not in my favor. Now, if the decision was not in my favor by first tier tribunal, then I still have an option to go to upper tier tribunal, even if my case was small, even if my amount was tiny bit. I can still go to upper tier tribunal, but first I will have to go to first tier tribunal. But if I have a whole lot of amount of taxation, then I can directly go to upper tier tribunal. All right. Now, types of taxes, I already told you in the last lesson. I've listed down all the sources of income, all the types of taxes. First one was income tax, and I told you that there is something called national insurance as well, which is part of income tax. Then we have seen corporation tax as well. We have seen capital gains tax, if you remember. We have seen value-added tax as well, if you can see here. And we have seen inheritance tax as well. Now, these are types of taxes. Now, tax can be divided, tax can be classified into two sections. One is revenue tax, another one is capital tax. There are two types of classification. Now, revenue tax is a tax which you pay on your money you earn. So, revenue tax could be income tax. So, income is a tax which you pay on your income. When you earn some income, you are earning some money, you'll have to pay tax on that, and that's why it is called income tax. And income tax is part of revenue tax because we are paying tax on the money you earn. Likewise, national insurance is also paid by employer or employee. You might not know what national insurance is for now. We will see later in detail what national insurance is, but it simply means when you earn some money, when you're working for someone, you will have to pay this tax as well. Now, there's one normal tax, which is tax, which you know what tax is. There is something called national insurance, which is second tax. But what is the difference between that? Why are we paying national insurance? Now, national insurance, why we pay national insurance is because the government says there are certain types of benefits in UK. Now, benefits like employment allowance, benefits like job seekers allowance, housing allowance, or if you know someone who is disabled, they will be getting some allowance as well from the government. Now, these are the allowances that is provided by the government. These are the benefits provided by the government. Say, for example, if you do not have any home in the UK, you can ask your government to give you a home. The government will give you the home. If you are seeking a job, if you are unemployed and you are looking for the job, then the government will pay you something until you get the job. That is job seekers allowance. Likewise, there are too many allowances in the UK. If someone is disabled, they cannot work, they cannot move, the government will pay them to live and to eat food, and the government will pay someone who is looking after them as well. So there are different types of benefits. Now, where is the money coming from for the benefits? This portion, national insurance. So national insurance money which we are paying to government, this is going to the people in the shape of benefits to the deserving people. All right. So the other tax was used for the things like roads and hospitals and schools, but this tax, national insurance, is going in the shape of benefits to the deserving people. All right. So I was talking about the revenue taxes and capital gains tax. Likewise, national insurance is also revenue tax because we are paying it on the money we earn. Corporation tax, if we talk about, there are two types of incomes which we earn through corporations. Corporation tax is a tax which is paid by companies when they make some profit. Now, if they are earning some income, there is income portion, then that will be called revenue tax because income is a money. If it is a gains portion, likewise, if you can see here, if it is a gains portion in corporation tax, that will be considered as capital tax. All right. So there are two types of taxes. One is revenue tax. Other one is capital tax. Revenue tax is a tax which you pay on the money. Capital tax is a tax which you pay when you sell some assets. Likewise, capital gains tax when you sell some shares, when you sell some assets, then you will have to pay capital gains tax if you make some gains, if you make some profits. Likewise, corporation tax, only the gains portion will also be classified as capital taxes. And inheritance tax, obviously, it is on the estate which deceased person leaves. So that is also, a capital tax. All right. Now, another classification of taxes is direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax is the tax which is collected directly by the taxpayer. Say, for example, if I am a taxpayer, if I pay directly to HMRC, that will be considered as direct tax. Whereas if I do not pay HMRC, if I pay someone else and they pay on my behalf to HMRC, then that will be called indirect tax. Now, there are direct taxes. All the taxes which we see are direct taxes. all these taxes are direct taxes, except for this one here, which is value-added tax. Now, only tax which is indirect, in our syllabus at least, it is value-added tax. Right? So value-added tax is indirect tax because we are not paying directly to HMRC that, say for example, if you put some fuel in your car, if you go to petrol pump, you pay for the fuel and you pay for the value-added tax as well. Whom are you paying? You're paying to the shopkeeper, and then they will pay to HMRC because they are not keeping in their own pockets. They are paying, they will have to pay to HMRC. All right, that tax is called indirect tax. All right. Now another topic is double tax treaty. Say for example, if you are earning some money outside the UK and then you are living in the UK, the government says that you will have to pay tax on that money as well. Now you already have paid tax on that money in other country, but you might have to pay tax in the UK as well on the same amount. Now the concept, the topic double tax treaty works that if you have paid a tax in one country and you are bringing that same amount into the UK, then you might not have to pay extra tax. You will only have to pay a minor amount of tax, or no tax in some cases as well. But we will see later in detail what double tax treaty is. In some cases, if your country has a agreement with other country, you do not have to pay any tax as well anyway. Right? So if there is agreement if there is a treaty between two countries, then you might not have to pay any tax. All right? The two concepts of paying less tax. I mean, everybody wants to pay less tax, isn't it? So why we are tax advisor, why are we studying this tax? So that we can help people to pay less tax in a legal way. All right? We can't help them to avoid the tax in illegal way. Now, there are two ways in which we can pay less tax. One is called tax avoidance of tax, which is a legal way of paying less tax by using reliefs, by using exemptions, by using your head if you are a qualified chartered accountant. All right? So this is the legal way of paying less tax, which is called avoidance of tax. There is something called evasion of tax. Tax evasion is illegal way of tax, illegal way of avoiding tax, and we can't do that. It is something like money laundering or all that, and paying less tax or declaring less income and all that. So that comes under the evasion of taxation. All right. Now these two rules, they are very, very difficult to differentiate between these two. Avoidance of tax is especially very difficult because you are using the loopholes, you are using the techniques, but sometimes you are using it in illegal way. You're using excessive amount of reliefs. You're using exemptions every year, and which are extremely high. If you're using that, then the government might think that you are abusing the law. If you are abusing the law, then there is something called general anti-abuse rule is introduced, which will catch you. So if you are using excessive amount of amount which look suspicious, say for example, if you're using exemptions every year of thousands of pounds, if you're showing your income less than what it is, then as well the general anti-abuse rule will catch you. All right. In both cases, if you are a qualified accountant, I hope after qualifying you will be a qualified accountant. You might be sitting in your office and someone pops into your office and asks you to help them save the tax. And if they ask you to help them save the tax in an illegal way, what will you do? Or if you have accepted the client was very nice in the start, he looked honest, but during the course of our assignment, he looked suspicious, he became naughty, and he said, I want to pay less tax, please help me, I'll pay you, and all that. What shall you do in them circumstances? Now, please don't forget the fundamental principles of accountancy, fundamental principles of chartered accountants, fundamental principles of ACCA, which are integrity and all that. Integrity, professional competence, and due care, honesty, and all that. All right. So, them fundamental principles are very, very crucial to learn. They are almost available in every ACCA exam. They are very, very important when deciding if whether to help the client or not. If the client is playing up, if the client is showing less tax, if the client is showing less revenue, if he wants to play up with the rules, just say politely to the client, I don't want to carry out working with you. And if he looks too much suspicious, if he's doing the money laundering and all that, then you should report to money laundering officer. Now, money laundering officer, they are available in big firms, big accountancy practice. Say, for example, if you're working for KPMG, they've got money laundering reporting officers. But if you're working for your own self, if you have a small practice, then you might report to National Crime Agency if someone is, if one of your client is playing up with the rules. All right? So, these are the rules, and you should stick by the rules especially when you're in practice. Try to, work professionally and with integrity. Do not use the conflict of interest. Do not let the conflict of interest abuse the law and all that. All right? So that's it for now, I think, and that was our first chapter, which is taxation of fundamental, F6. I'll see you in the next lecture with the first topic, which is income tax, and we'll see about income tax. All right? Now, if you want to note down, I'll just move down. Please make sure you note down each and every bit which I have written on the board, because it is very, very important. All right? That's it for now, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you and goodbye.